Hey there, welcome back to this week's episode of the Idaho Outfitters and Guides Association podcast. I'm Eric Weiseth.
And I'm Jack Hurdy.
And this week should be short, sweet, and to the point, I think. But we also have a great interview with Tyler Green from Woodsman Outfitter Solutions. And Jack, he'll let you know what that's about. But this week we are going to talk about the annual meeting is coming up. It'll be here before we know it. And registration is open, and early season pricing is available right now. We are looking for some presentation ideas. We're going to talk about wildfire data. The Forest Service is doing a feasibility study on consolidating wildland fire with interior. We're going to talk about something we talked about a lot before on fees in the Explore Act. We're going to talk about the Asotin scat machine and grant money from the state. So all sorts of exciting things. But Jack, how was your interview with Tyler?
Yeah, it was good. So folks don't know Tyler Green. He works for Woodsman Outfitter Solutions, which does payment processing, marketing. They provide a lot of other solutions and services for outfitters and kind of outdoor recreation, sportsman-focused businesses. He's a super sharp guy. He knows payments inside and out, and he's pretty fun to talk to. So for someone that doesn't know anything about payments like myself, I think it was hopefully a good informational podcast. And even if you do know a lot about payments like Eric, hopefully you got something out of it as well. So give it a listen.
Yeah, I know that I hate them and the fees and the process and literally everything about it. That's what I know the most from my years of dealing with it. But I think Tyler's there to help. So
Tyler's
hopefully
whole
take
thing
somebody.
is to make it as easy as possible for his clients. So
yeah, well, awesome. It's worth the listen for sure. All right, let's just jump right into a few of these things. So for all you IOGA fans or stands or whatever we're going to call you, your members, I guess probably is the right one. Yeah. The annual meeting is coming up. It's going to be November 30th to December 4th, with the real meeting being December 1st, 2nd, and 3rd at Tamarack Resort outside of Donnelly here in Idaho. It's going to be awesome presentations, networking, vendors, kind of all the things the IOGA is famous for, the cowboy poetry contest, all the great things that people know and love from our event.
And I'm sure we'll find a bar to take over like we did last year in Wallace.
We took over a bunch of bars in Wallace, and it was awesome. And we're definitely going to take over some bars at Tamarack. I'm pretty sure we'll be the only people. We'll be most of the people there that time of year, the first week of December, I suspect. So it'll basically be Outfitter City over there at Tamarack and should be a really good time. Early bird pricing is available through August 31st. So book your spots, get registered for the conference now so you don't have to pay any more money for it. And Tamarack is also giving us some super special outfitter friends of the industry. They're a member actually in the association pricing for rooms, condos, those kinds of things. And one of the things that's cool about it is they've got, upwards of 3-bedroom condos. So go in with your buddies and rent a place. You'll have everybody has a kitchen and all that kind of stuff, but you can actually go and kind of rent a guide pad with all your buddies, or outfitter pad, I guess, with all your buddies to save some money and also just make the whole thing a lot more fun. And if you're coming from Salmon, Gem Air is going to do a per seat sale on a shuttle flight coming over for folks from Salmon, land in McCall, and then we'll get you a bus ride out to Tamarack and then get you the ride home. So if you don't want to drive around from Salmon, that's going to be like a stellar way to come to the conference. You don't have to do the 5-hour drive in the winter, which, having done it, can be adventurous. So I think final thing is we're looking for presentation ideas. You guys are the ones in the industry. You know what's important. You know what you're good at. You know what other people, would love to hear. So we are going to be sending out in the newsletter, I think maybe tomorrow or the next day, a request for people to tell us what they would love or give us your idea for a presentation that you want to lead. I mean, you can also give us your idea for a presentation you don't want to lead, but we're going to come back to you to find someone to lead it. But yeah, if you have something you want to tell people or something you want to share with the community, we would love to hear your presentation ideas. So send those on over. And
I think we should do a karaoke contest.
That doesn't feel like the sort of informational presentation part, but we definitely should do that in the evening at the bar, 100%. Or you guys should. I don't do karaoke, but Yeah, 7 a.m. karaoke. Interesting. But yeah, so that's coming up, and we're really excited about it so far. So we got some big deal speakers showing up, and some great things coming, sort of in the preliminary stages right now. Like I think it's going to be one of our best. But we would also love to hear ideas on the things that you want to hear and learn about.
Awesome. Yeah, I'm stoked for the annual meeting. I'll be there. So come by and say hi to me, or you can even say hi to Eric if you want.
Yeah, I mean, you come for Jack, but
Yeah.
if you can't find Jack, you could always say hi to me.
Yep, exactly. All right, well, I'm sure people have noticed it is wildfire season, so we have some, I think, important big picture items on wildland fire management, some wildfire ignition stuff. First things first, I just saw this. The Forest Service has just awarded a $1.3 million contract to a big research firm in North Carolina that's going to do a feasibility study to look at what it would take to consolidate federal wildfire management under the Department of Interior. So just from the press release, they're going to look at potential efficiencies, anticipated impacts of separating the Forest Service's wildland fire management operations from its broader land management responsibilities. The White House has been pushing for this for a while. Congress and the Forest Service have kind of been pretty reluctant to go along with it. On balance, I think it's something that, outfitters and guides should be pretty wary of. There's a lot of proponents for it, saying that it could streamline some fire operations, make budgets more efficient, and kind of create this more specialized, quote unquote, firefighting machine that would be housed under the Department of Interior, that could, be more effective in suppressing wildfire. So I kind of see the argument there, but at the same time, I think there's a real concern that this move could end up being kind of self-defeating. So for one, you're spending billions of dollars to consolidate these agency functions. You're dealing with moving personnel and equipment around and trying to reorganize all that. Could potentially end up with another bloated bureaucracy without really much efficiency gains, and end up losing some of the institutional knowledge that the Forest Service has had for 100+ years now. I think there's an open question that I hope this study will look at. Like what do you do with red card holders? If you don't know, like the red card holders are non-fire employees that can step in to bolster capacity on a fire. They're kind of like the wildfire militia, or like National Guard, like reserve. So additionally, a lot of the fire work around wildland fire kind of happens before the fire starts. So all the fuels reduction, prescribed fire, defensible space, habitat work, that happens more under the land management umbrella. So what happens if you take wildland fire out of the land management agency? Does it still do those functions? Do those get transferred as well? Do those get dropped altogether? I think that's an open question. I think personally I would just be worried that creating a consolidated agency, you would lose a lot of that preventative work, which is often, a better bang for your buck than just suppression, waiting for the fire to blow up and going to attack it is really expensive and dangerous, when instead you could just reduce the size of the fire before it even starts. The long-term concern with this is that removing fire from the Forest Service would basically strip it of a huge part of its budget and capacity, and would just sideline the agency politically, and worst case scenario lead to the demise of the agency. So hopefully this study will address those questions and maybe help us find a path forward, whether we do go with the consolidation or we kind of keep the status quo as it is. I know DOI Interior has already consolidated a lot of its firefighting, so maybe that's a good first step, and we can leave the Forest Service alone for now. But I'll be interested to see where it goes, and we'll try and follow along and keep you all updated. Eric, what's your take on this? What do you think about this move?
Yeah, I think I know just enough to probably be dangerous on this one. But from what I've read, people I've talked to sort of in the agency, outside the agency, and just sort of, I think, like general common sense, uh, from my understanding, the majority of the forest fire fighting infrastructure that we have is housed under Department of Agriculture and the Forest Service. That accounts for 70-80% of our forest firefighting sort of infrastructure. So why you would move all of that, like if you're going to consolidate, why you wouldn't consolidate it under the Forest Service? instead of trying to move all that infrastructure, all that expertise, all that everything over to the Department of Interior has never made sense to me. And Jack, I think to your point about red card holders and some of the efficiencies that you get from having both your land management agency and your fire agency be one group, you have employees that can be firefighting uh, deployed when they need to, but then also do other things the other time of the year. So you can scale where your needs are without having to have two employees. You can do one employee and use them more efficiently. And I think a great example of that is what you talked about, using the same employees for fuel reduction within your agency, and then they transfer over to doing firefighting work later to sort of be fighting fire on both sides, the preventative and then, the reactive side of it. Not having to have two agencies interact and all that kind of stuff, that kind of makes sense to me, like big picture, if you step back and think about it. But like so many things, when you get to this level and this scale, they sound good on paper, and then when you start getting into the weeds of it, it just maybe doesn't actually bring the efficiencies that it seems like it would at a first glance. And having been around a lot of firefighting on, an area that was co-managed between the BLM and the Forest Service, like the inefficiencies of two different agencies being involved in the process was never a thing. Especially when you get up to type 1 or type 3, type 2, type 1 teams coming in, they've got that figured out. So I hear some of these really smart, very connected, very experienced, Forest Service experts, Forest Service people saying that they're worried this could lead to the long-term demise of the Forest Service through budget reductions and everything else. I personally don't see how that's possible, because the Forest Service still will have legal obligations to do all sorts of other things besides fight forest fires. It could end up being a hit to their budget. I get all of that, but I that feels a little too far for me. But I could see it stripping out a lot of resources within the Forest Service in an organization that already is pretty strapped for resources. But if nothing else happens besides a very detailed look at the entire infrastructure, setup, contracting, everything we do to fight forest fires, if that's all that happens here, I think that would be a really good thing. I think there's a lot probably that needs to be looked at within this big thing of where efficiencies are available. But consolidating under Department of Interior, to me, the non-expert on this one and someone who hasn't dug into the weeds too deep on it, it's never made sense to me. But that's my take, and you probably should ignore it, would be my recommendation.
All right. In other wildfire news, Headwaters Economics has a new article out looking at ignition data for wildfires over the last 30 years. It's a pretty cool little data set. I think we'll link it in the next newsletter so folks can go kind of play with it, look at it if they're interested. It's very accessible. It's not a dense academic paper by any means. I just went and pulled the data out for Idaho. So from 1992 to 2024, 40% of the fires in Idaho were caused by humans, 59% were natural, and then 1% was unknown. The national average for wildfires was 77% human caused. So, good job, Idaho. A couple other stats. Among human-caused wildfires, debris and open burning, so like think of an escaped campfire or like a slash pile that gets out of control, was the top ignition source. And rates of ignition from that source in particular are steadily increasing in most places across the country. So we really got to make sure our campfires are getting put out. Have a bucket of water, have a shovel, make sure it's cold. Additionally, equipment and vehicles are causing wildfires with a lower frequency than other sources, but the impact from those ignitions is really high. So over the 20-year period, over 200,000 fires from equipment and vehicles burned 10.9 million acres of land. So yeah, that's another thing. We've talked about this before, like watch your chains when you're driving your trailer around, make sure you're not parking over dry grass, stuff like that. It's all common sense stuff, but it's surprising, how big of an effect it can have. Finally, the last thing I saw in there, arson ignited fires are down nationally, as well as fires started by smoking cigarettes. So call those two things, I think, a win, but still got a long way to go on all the other ignition sources.
Yeah, the trailer chains thing has always blown me away, but I've personally been around like multiple fires, and I wonder if, part of the reason they're big is because you get a truck just driving down the road and it's like little fire here, little fire here, little fire here for miles. We saw a couple of those in Southern Oregon back in the day. It was like, over a 5 mile, it was like this fire just started in this 5 mile zone
Yeah.
because it was little sparks here and there cutting out there. But the other one I don't see on your list is folks like shooting tannerite and stuff like that. I feel like there's been a fair number of fires from people shooting sports in the summer with people wanting to shoot things that explode. But maybe that's just anecdotal or just happens to be the friends that I have. But
Yeah, you might just be hanging out with some rednecks, Eric.
could be. Yeah, well, let's see. Moving on to shittier topics, shall we say? For you lower salmon outfitters, the Asotin scat machine is down for the foreseeable future. Message from the BLM that came out, I believe, actually this morning, following up on an earlier closure, but was hoping it was short term, says that it's closed until further notice with no projected reopening date. The BLM is discussing with the city of Asotin, but issues related to their wastewater treatment facility and the volume that the scat machine and the RV dump station contribute to the system is causing some problems. It sounds like maybe some grease got dumped into the system at either the RV dump or the scat machine, and that's also causing some problems and strain on the city's system. So all that to say, one, when you're using a scat machine, human waste only in said machine. Don't dump in other stuff like your bottle of bacon grease, and don't dump your bacon grease in the Johnny, because the Johnny then gets emptied into the scat machine. So you see how that works? Just human stuff and toilet paper in the Johnny. And so, yeah, but if you're a lower salmon outfitter, that's going to probably be a pain for you. I believe the closest one at that point is Riggins, or you got to go to an RV dump station somewhere. So best of luck, but yeah, start making plans to deal with your poop, because that may be the end for the season. You've been waiting on that one. You've been sitting there just planning.
Just thinking about it the whole time. All right, moving on. Real quick on the last podcast, we talked about the new rules for critical habitat designations, which kind of created a pathway for permittees like outfitters to express their economic interests during that critical habitat designation process. And it also, I think, narrowed Fish and Wildlife's discretion to disregard those concerns about economic impacts. On July 31st, a bunch of conservation groups challenged that rule. They sued the Fish and Wildlife Service in the District of Hawaii and characterized that rule as giving special interests, quote, effective veto over critical habitat protection. We'll see how this plays out. I kind of doubt it'll go anywhere, but I haven't been able to find much information about the lawsuit online, so I definitely could be wrong on that. That's just kind of my gut instinct. Yeah, like we talked about last time, this rule could definitely benefit outfitters in certain areas, but there's also some places where it could really harm them by weakening habitat protections for endangered species, habitat protections for endangered species that provide habitat protection for other species that aren't necessarily endangered but that are important. Really what I think this lawsuit shows is the ping pong nature of this rule in particular. And how we just need some more stable land and wildlife management. I think the back and forth is really bad, and not having that stability is not only bad for outfitters and their businesses, but also for the resource. So, yeah, see where that lawsuit goes. But
Yeah, I kind of figured that was coming at some point. So
yeah,
it'll be interesting to see how it plays out. But I think you're right. The bigger message here is just the ping-ponging back and forth doesn't lead to stability, which is what we really want. So. In some good news, the Idaho Outfitters and Guides Association was awarded just a little bit over $200,000 last week, by the Idaho Travel Council to continue to promote outfitting and guiding to new clients throughout the country. So we do a lot of, especially digital advertising, but we also this year helped host some fam trips with digital influencers. So your social media stars. We hosted some trips for them. We do a lot of digital marketing overall to promote all of our member businesses, primarily through our brand sites, Hunt Idaho, Raft Idaho, Fish Idaho, Jetboat Idaho, Ride Idaho, and Guest Ranch Idaho. But we also have done a bunch of other things like go to some specific trade shows to push businesses and whole list of things. But we get money from the state, and we just got a little bit more than we were awarded last year. So we're really excited. We're thankful to the Travel Council for the work that they do and their trust in us to hopefully be good stewards of the state's money as we promote the outfitting industry here in Idaho. And if you want to be on the marketing committee here at IOGA to help guide those dollars, we are actively seeking people to participate in working on the marketing plan with mostly me, because it's kind of a one-man committee at the moment. So feel free to come and share your opinion.
One-man committees, it's a good band name.
Jack was just at the Harmonica Fest, so he's thinking music.
Yep. One-man committee is going to be my solo harmonica performance with 8 different harmonicas.
Get one of the vests with the pockets. The harmonica pockets, yeah, yep. I could see it.
Yeah. All right, you want to talk Explore Act?
Oh, yeah, shucks. So early at the last annual meeting, and then kind of throughout the early parts of the winter, there was a lot of discussion on the implementation of the Explore Act and new fee structures, and talk about the possibility the Forest Service was going to basically fall back onto the regulatory default, which was $6 per day as one of the options, $6 per person per day, which is the backstop in the actual legislation. If they don't do anything to create a flat fee option within 2 years of implementation, that'll automatically default to $6 per person per day. That is January 4th or 7th or 6th of next year is when that would happen if they don't do anything. But the Forest Service had discussed just default, like choosing that option as their flat fee option. So you could choose the 3% or you could choose that. They sounded like they were going to roll forward, then they kind of stopped, and maybe we're going to go a different direction. And, now it's kind of been radio silence for quite a while on implementation and where they're actually going to land on this. But I think the important thing to remind folks and outfitters out there who, heard that, hey, $6 per person per day, that is going to happen. It's probably going to be how fees are assessed this year. And then you started to do that math in your head, especially if you're, say, a middle fork business or a multi-day outfitter who has high dollar stuff. There's the potential that you were, it's going to have a big impact on your fees this year. Unclear where this is going and things could change, but what I would say to you folks right now is, maybe you didn't do your preseason payments as high as you normally would or those kinds of things. If I was reading the tea leaves, I would anticipate paying your use fees this year based on the same system that it has always been. That could change. It could change tomorrow. But all signs point towards that would be how I would be planning my business, and budgeting and everything else would be to pay based off of the 3% in the same way that you always have. So it's not an update as much as a reminder that as you, think about your bank accounts and your budgeting for the year, that you should be anticipating maybe having that payment that you would have done in a preseason payment, but maybe didn't this year because of the unknown about what the structure was going to be. So you may end up in a postseason payment situation with owing more money than you typically would. So just something to have on your radar as a possible outcome and something to plan for.
Fun stuff. Last thing, just a reminder to submit comments for the new grizzly bear Rule 4D change. That's the big announcement came out a few weeks ago about transferring management of grizzly bears to the states, particularly Idaho, Montana, and Wyoming. If you're an outfitter operating in grizzly bear country, if you have experience with grizzly bears, interfering with your operation or just trying to work with them, work around them, your on-the-ground experience is immensely helpful to U.S. Fish and Wildlife and getting this rule done and making sure that it's kind of properly calibrated. There's a blog post up on our website under the member news section that lays out the changes in detail, and it also has a link to the comment portal. So if you do want to make comments, if you feel strongly about it, if you have a helpful perspective for those guys, get that in by August 17th. We'll be submitting IOGA comments, and we'll make those public once we get the draft finalized. So,
Yep. Yeah, we'll have a link to that blog post in the next newsletter, and we'll also link out to our comments when we get those finished. But yeah, like all these kinds of things, if this is an issue that matters to you, get your voice, have your voice be heard. So, all right. Final thing here is just it's renewal season, IOGA membership renewals. We are live in kind of our renewal season, so it started July 1st. And it's time to renew for the year. So we are an organization that exists, and the work that we do is supported by your membership. So please renew your membership for this coming 2027 fiscal year. And if you haven't gotten a call from Hardy, myself, you will here in the very near future. But yep, time to renew and continue to support the organization and the work we're doing here, supporting outfitters and trying to keep this industry going. All right, Jack, you ready? We're going to hop into the interview, I guess. Anything you want to prep folks for?
just remember that I don't know anything about payments, so I might ask some dumb questions, but I think it's a helpful place to start from zero knowledge. So
This is a thing, man. When you start, if you're a business owner or an outfitter and you start looking at your budget for the year, this was always that line item that just drove me nuts. Because it's like it can be such a massive amount of money, and it feels like it's kind of going to nothing. And it's one of those things that you should, Jeff always tells me that, every 3 or 4 years, you should reprice your insurance with some new carrier because they just kind of get you in the system and then get lazy about it and your fees go up. And so you should always be shopping for new ones. And I think this credit card processing thing is kind of a similar space. You should always be keeping your eye out there for lower prices because that's kind of where they compete is on low prices. So if you run a business, I would strongly recommend you listen to this and see if there's an opportunity for you to save some money while getting, hopefully some better service, honestly. So cool. Well, here we go. We'll hop into the interview with Tyler Green. All right, remember it's time to renew your membership for the year. You can hop on the website or you can give us a call at IOGA. And IOGA, outside of just memberships, we also rely on the support of our members who go above and beyond through our programs like Dollars for Outdoors and Dollar for Salmon. Our Dollars for Outdoors supporters are Cascade Rafting Kayak, Mile High Outfitters, McGowan Outfitters, White Cloud Outfitters, Bear Valley, Rapid River Outfitters, Soar Northwest, Bighorn Outfitting, Mystic Saddle Ranch, and Table Mountain.
And also our Dollars for Salmon Out supporters, where their money goes specifically to support our work advocating for anadromous fish recovery. So that's Rapid River Outfitters, S&S, Canyon, Solitude, and Salmon River Drifters. I think with the state of our fisheries this year, that money's more important than ever. So thank you guys for all your support. Okay, Tyler Green, welcome to the podcast, man. Thanks for being here. First off, before we get too deep into the world of payment solutions and other things, can you tell us a bit about your backstory and kind of how you got to where you are?
How long do we have on this podcast, Jack? Because we're gonna need some
Well,
time.
as long
Oh
as you
my
want.
goodness. All right. Most of my outfitters, have a pretty good understanding of like who I am. I'm pretty much an open book when it comes to like my life, personal life, the journey that kind of led me to where I am today, right? So really and truly, plain and simple, I'm a sixth generation farm boy. All right, from southern Indiana, still very much active on our family farm. So back in the day, we were big into dairy cattle. Then got out of the dairy, went to the hog, had a finishing facility there, gestation house, and then we've got into Black Angus cattle. So now we have like a south facing monoslope building. So we finished about 300 head of Black Angus cattle on top of, corn, soybeans, winter wheat, hay, you name it, right? So
Wow.
big into agriculture, uh, and basically what led me to evolve is when I was real young. I grew up with a single mom, basically who did everything for me, right? Big inspiration. Um, and I was like, look, mom, I love farming. I love the family farm, but I want to do something on my own, and I love the outdoors. She was like, well, what are you thinking? And I was like, I want to get into, you know, archery and archery sales and being a bow technician, firearm specialist, stuff like that. And she was like, okay. And she was like, well, then what? And so Bucks and Jake's Outfitters is here in my hometown and just so happens to be, the CEO of Evolve is also the owner of Bucks and Jake's Outfitters, right? So let's go back, way back in time. And, so that's where I started. And I was not a boat technician to start, right? I was 15. I couldn't even drive. My mom was dropping me off, and I was picking up cigarette butts out of the gravel parking lot and cleaning cricket cages, right? But hey, I was doing something on my own, and that's what matters, right? In this day
Mm-hmm.
and age, that's what matters. Well, actually, I think a lot of people kind of lose that sense as well. Like, you've got to start somewhere, right? And then work your way up through the ranks. But anyway, that's then, and then led to getting really big into archery shooting, competition archery. Became a bow technician, and then when I went to college, so I'm still farming, still helping on the farm. Then I'm doing that. Went off to college, so I'm now in college. 15 credit hours a semester, working a full-time job at Bucks and Jake's, and then that's what got me into the digital side of things. Is it was we wanted to get an e-commerce website, right? So I spent a lot of time in a little tiny room, basically putting all the items together for the retail, like for the shop. So then did that throughout college, and then came back from came back from college, wanted to go a different direction, left on great terms with Alan, and then ended up um, being a caddy. I was into golf, really big into golf, so I was a caddy. Did a
Mm-hmm.
stint on the web.com tour. Just love people, right? I think what you're gonna find out is that I like people. I like interacting with people. I like solving problems, and really that's it. You know what I mean? So then now let's fast forward again. Went through some personal issues, right? Battles of my own. Ended up having back surgery, and that's when after that, my wife and I we sat down and she was like, we have a young family, and they're gonna need you, and I need you as well. So you need to figure your crap out, right? Figure it out, get it together, but you might want to look into it, doing something different. And so then that's where I was like, you know what? Let me reach out to somebody I know, and there just so happened to be an opening for what I was looking for as a inside sales account executive here at Evolve. And they took a chance, right? Uh, a chance on me at that time in my life, and best decision I ever made. I mean, best decision ever. I mean, they hold me accountable. I hold myself accountable, but you know what I mean. It's a
Mm-hmm.
very family family run organization, and Alan's been at this for 28 years, so
Wow.
he knows what he's doing, right? And then and then so my nose was to the grindstone for that first year before I the doors started to open, right? I was grinding every single day, still do, but then you know meeting you guys, like meeting everyone at IOGA and the the connections I've made throughout that whole process. Um, wow. I mean, not just partnerships, right? Partnerships with other outfitters, but it's people that they're friends now, right? That's what it's about. And we
Absolutely.
started with
Well,
my story and payments.
yeah.
So, wow, that's kind of a wild ride, man. It sounds like you've kind of done it all, which is cool. Um, so you started Evolve, you're grinding, and then Woodsman's Outfitters kind of comes together. Can you talk a little bit about what that is and kind of how it's different from Evolve?
Absolutely. So you can also go back to like the Bucks and Jakes, right? Bucks and Jakes
Hmm.
Outfitters is a prime example of so many there's so many merchant processors out there, like merchant services, right? There's all kinds of different names, and they're in the card processing business, right? Card and ACH payments. And it's like, man, you talk to them, try to go through underwriting, like no one really, they don't understand outfitting. Like they don't understand that world of this is how business is conducted, right? We're going to collect a deposit, and not one solution fits all, right? Not one single solution fits all outfitters. That's the key. Not one outfitter is the same. Um, and then you take outfitters. It's like, well, shoot, you've got big game, right? You have big game. You've got whitewater rafting. You've got horseback riding. You got llama trekking. I mean, the list goes on and on and on. So, um, not one solution. It's not a one size fits all. So, what was the question again?
Just
Oh my gosh.
what is Woodsman's Outfitters? Which is it's if I'm maybe I'm wrong,
Should we
but it's
cut
kind of a
that? Should we
spin-off.
cut that? Should we
We
cut
can
that?
cut that.
Let's
Yeah,
cut.
start
Let's
that.
cut that. Start that again.
Start it
Go
over.
again with that question. Yeah.
Yeah. So you're grinding at Evolve, and then Woodsman's Outfitters Solutions kind of starts to come together. What is that, and how's it different from Evolve?
Great question, Jack. So, Woodsman Outfitter Solutions is essentially it all it is. It's the brand. Okay, Woodsman
Hmm.
Outfitter Solutions is the brand that Jake and I, we so that's Alan's son, uh, Jacob No. Okay, director of sales, and we sat together, many times over hunting stories, right? Sharing trail cam pics, putting in food plots, all that stuff, just casting a line, fishing. And it's like, look, we have to have a better way to help all outfitters and everyone that loves and is passionate for the outdoors as we are, to understand that, like, look, this is your one-stop shop for
Hmm.
for payment processing, people that truly understand it, right? We're not just your average merchant processor. Like, we live, eat, bleed everything
Yeah.
outdoors. You know what I mean? And so then that's like, hey, let's make this easier for access, right? But to understand, like, we're just like you. End of the day, like, all we care about is improving improving cash flow, making sure you keep the maximum amount of revenue, and have that go-to person that truly gets it. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
Because I mean, payments are made throughout all times of the day. You need that person you can rely on if something goes astray. You know what I mean? So that's where
Yep.
Woodsman Outfitter Solutions came in. It's like, look, Evolve is Evolve's a mother company, right? Mother company for all payments, right? And then about 8 years ago, Alan, had the vision of, look, he has this many merchants, this many customers, and they're reaching out to him, Alan, who do I go to for my digital marketing? Or how do I put this? Like, I only want to deal with one point of contact, but know that there's a team behind that person. How do we do this? So he acquired a digital company about 8 years ago, right? And I mean, it boomed. It really took off with COVID, right? Everything kind of started to go,
Hmm.
you know, how many feet apart. That there's a
Right.
good song, you know what I mean? There's a good song about that. But yes, so that's where Woodsman came in. It's like, look, you have a company that are also fellow hunters, fellow anglers, right? This is, I mean, it's an opportune business.
Yeah.
It's a great business model.
And so you guys are doing not just payments, but now you're doing digital marketing for like an outdoor business specific audience. Is that a good way to put it?
Absolutely. Yep.
Cool.
So I work. I mean, I work with close to 25, 25 IOGA members for
Cool.
and that's either payment processing or digital marketing or both. So
Hmm.
it's not like, and that's the beauty of it is it's not like you must do both of these things in order, to have access to it. It's, that's just where it's more of a
Yeah.
consultation. It's like we just have the conversation, you and
Kind of
I.
like a
Hey,
custom services,
yeah,
huh?
and it's all absolutely, and it's like, and my thing is, it's like how can I offload as many hats as possible just to make your life easier. I mean, I had this exact conversation yesterday with an outfitter, not from Idaho, or not a member of IOGA, and that they're juggling like 17 different hats.
Oh,
You know
yeah,
what
I'm
I mean?
sure.
And it's just, it's like, okay, what is in your budget? What's the biggest pain point? One, and let me eliminate it. Whether that is the payments, or in most of the time, that's really where it all starts, is the payment processing. And then you get into it because you could be extremely happy with the reservation software, and it's like, for no, like, I am never going to part ways. I love my contact there. I love my reservation software. It works seamlessly for our operation, right? Our outfit is thriving, but it
Hmm.
comes down to revenue. It comes down to, okay, but, and so then that's where I have, the freedom as an ISO, right? I have I have the freedom to look at it and be like, okay, well, this is the gateway you need. I can actually write that exact same account. Nothing changes except I'm going to write you a new merchant account. Same gateway, but you're going to have this type of processing rates. So then it
Okay.
becomes,
Yeah.
you know, pretty cool.
So I want to slow down just for a second because I think along with many of my colleagues in the outfitting industry, I don't know anything about payments or how that works. So explain like I'm five, or maybe explain like I'm a river guide. Like, how do payments work, start to finish, and where do you guys come in?
Yeah. So as far as payment processing, okay, so we're the payment processor, okay, but then think of payments as, your card payments and your ACH payments. So just bank to bank transfers, and then any
Hmm.
and all card types. So you've got Visa out there, you've got Mastercard, you have an Amex, you have Discover. So you have all these different card brands, right? So those are like your issuing card brand issuing networks. So then, um, all that really matters, I don't want to run you way too far in the weeds, like as far as like interchange rates and all this fun. All that matters is, you have to have the ability to accept that card in person, okay, which is considered retail, the card present world. How many outfitters are doing card present when someone calls and books? Never. It's a hundred
Right.
percent moto. You know what I mean? And all that means is 100% card not present. So
Okay.
then you have to have that ability to compliantly take that card either over the phone or through a secure, payment gateway. Okay, and that all. So just think of it as, when I say moto, I'm not talking e-commerce. E-commerce is completely different. Okay, and this is what I see a lot, that a lot of processors aren't. They kind of try to cut the corners, okay? But the key is you have to remain compliant with the card brands. If not, they're coming after it, assessing major fines and penalties, okay? And so e-commerce means they actually go to the outfitter site. Let's just say it's whitewater rafting. They go to the outfitter site, they see the dates available, they select those dates available that they want to come on the trip on, and they actually add that into the shopping cart and then check out.
Hmm.
That's 100% e-commerce. Okay. Take it the other way, same, a different whitewater rafting operation lists the dates of availability, or say, please call us, you know, please call us for availability, limited amount of space, something like that. That means the customer, that point picks up the phone, calls, that's now a, that's now a moto. That's now card not present moto transaction. So at that point in time, you need the ability to, invoice, right? Or even if you're going to do it on the back end, right? And you just add the trip. See what I mean? But the key
Hmm.
is, you know, the key is just being able to send secure payment links via text, via email, and allow the customer to enter their information. That's the
Hmm.
most secure, most compliant way to do it. And then you get the
Okay.
automation side. That's the cool part. Or, adding that card on file because you don't want to come back later on and be like, oh, well, you've added this. I need that card again. You know what I mean?
Yep.
You have to have that ability to store that card information on file securely, right? Securely store it, and then it's tokenized. So then the outfitter at that point can use that card again.
Okay.
Not
So
not
you guys are
not on a
doing
not on a piece of paper, not on a
right.
piece of paper written down.
But who would do that?
Hey, we're old school.
Yep.
I mean, there's
So
nothing wrong with it.
so you guys are providing the ability to take that card information and then transferring that information to the banks, and then the banks are transferring the payment. Does that kind of make
Mm,
sense? Is that summing it up?
Yep. Well, yes. So card. Okay. So then let's just say we process that transaction. Okay. Card is card is processed, right? Card information is taken care of, and then we're going to process that transaction. We're going to ensure that that card type qualifies at the correct, interchange rate, okay, depending on how it's set up. But then we're depositing those funds are, next day funding. So any and all card payments that are Monday through Thursday are next day. Friday, Saturday, Sunday are then deposited on Monday. So it's next day
Sure.
funding. Now
Okay.
I even have, I have certain clients that need like same day funding. Okay. And it's just because of maybe the hours. Let's just say, it's a bar, right? That bar is open till certain hours. Well, there's a cutoff time for next day funding, but I can set that account up and write it for same day funding. That way, hey, it's a bar, but they're open late, till 2, 3 in the morning. But what they can do is we can auto close and batch a portion of that so it's, funded that same day, and then this portion can be funded the next day. There's all kinds of ways.
All right. Well,
Yeah, you'll see the theme,
uh,
right, Jack?
yep.
Cash flow, cash flow,
Cash
cash
flow.
flow,
Cu-
cash flow.
Customized cash flow services. Well, I'm glad there's smart people that understand this stuff so that, I can go book my river trip and then get back to podcasting.
Yeah, right.
Okay. So we kind of touched on this a little bit earlier, but your specialty is working with outfitters, other like sporting or outdoor rec businesses. And I think you talked a little bit about how they have some unique needs. Could you speak a little bit more to that? And like what kind of unique needs do you see and how do you accommodate that?
Well, let's just put it this way. Outfitting is highly competitive. Okay.
Hmm.
So, I mean, I'm pretty sure I shared this with you last week or so. Jack is, with my background is also, coaching youth sports, right? Competitive USSSA baseball. Um, very, very similar, right? Think of like farming, for example. All right. How many outfitters do you know that have a second or third job? Strong majority.
Yeah.
Okay. So ultimately, it's their time is very valuable. Okay. Same goes for my time, right? Um, so it's something I don't take that for I never take a second of that for granted. You know what I mean? So I think understanding that unique need of it gets, I mean, it can be dead for months, right? It can be very slow, you know, season's over, right? But it
Hmm.
never stops. The work never stops. Everyone's like, oh, well, outfitting is, it's seasonal. Sure, running the trips, right? Bringing the client, that's seasonal, sure. There's seasons. Um, it doesn't stop. I mean, as soon as it, I mean, just take for instance, as soon, I mean, there's how many outfitters that schedule, the IOGA conference, right? It's right in the midst of it. No matter how
Hmm.
you do it, if you move it from Boise, if you take it to
Yeah.
Wallace, right? I mean, seriously, you move to different to try to accommodate, um, but it's year round because as soon as it ends, guess what? It never ends. You have
Right.
potential clients, customers, reaching out. Hey, I want to come back. 2 days after they left. Well, guess what? That's beautiful. That means you're doing exactly what you were put on this earth to do, and that's you know to provide a service that's well beyond just harvesting an animal. You know what I mean? It's what they're
Yep.
getting.
It's an
Disconnecting from,
experience. Yeah.
yeah, it's the experience side of it, and allowing to understand that there's so much out there in this world for us to explore. Right? That's we're pioneers by trade, really and truly. It's just some anyway. Um, but yeah, it's beautiful to see that each outfitter has different needs, and then being able to just connect with them on that level, and just understand they have different ways of communicating. Some prefer pick up a phone, call me. Okay, others are like, I don't have time to be on the phone, shoot me an email, I'll shoot you
Yep.
an email. Or there's the classic, call so and so, right? They'll send a text, call so and so, like, call me, got it, I'll pick up the phone and call. um, but just being able to you know meet meet every single outfitter that I possibly can, right? Some are in a great place, and that's beautiful. You know what I mean? Like, I'm going to tell you that, look, the services I offer, like, you are in a great place with whoever's taking care of you. I can't touch it, as far as processing. And
Mm.
I'm that open and honest that it's like, look, even if you feel like it may be the best, has anyone ever just taken us? Have you given us second thought to just have a review? That review never hurts. Just to ensure that, guess what, the next generation, or the third, fourth, whatever generation that's up and coming, wanting to take over this business, is in a great place, because that's what it's about, multi-generational wealth. So yeah, it's fun. It's a lot of fun.
Yeah. Yeah. You seem, just from our conversation, you seem very passionate about kind of the personal touch and you know, the individuality of working with outfitters, which I think is really cool. It's one of the things I appreciate as well. Um,
Appreciate that.
yeah. So you kind of touched on compliance a little bit earlier, like not writing people's credit card numbers down on a post-it note and leaving it on your desk. What are some other kind of do's and don'ts you've seen with compliance, or like common issues that people should watch out for?
Oh, common issues. I mean, fraud is bigger than ever right now. Um, I mean, that's something that I see every single day. Is just the fraudsters that are out there, where they're just trying to do card testing. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
And if you you know, and if you don't have certain security things set in place and ensuring your PCI compliant, right, with the major card brands. But part of that is also your breach coverage. Okay, so like, we ensure that you're PCI compliant, all right, and we're also serving as like that security layer. So we're monitoring that, like, my entire risk team. Okay, they're monitoring. Hey, this is unusual activity. Like, are these legit transactions?
Mm.
Because you'll see it a lot on, um, especially e-commerce. Okay, so think of anybody that is doing bookings online. That's where someone, some people can get in there. The fraudsters can get in, and they can just start, testing cards left and right. Boom.
Hmm.
And next thing you know, I mean, $100,000, $300,000, poof. You know what I mean? And then who's responsible for that? Well, it's going to get charged back. You know what I mean? It's going to be disputed,
Hmm.
because the anyway. Um, see that a lot. And then also just understanding and avoiding risk holds. Okay. So like whenever I write the merchant account, basically I have to look and say, okay, this is your average ticket. Okay. Average, right? What's the highest ticket you've ever taken? So you've got a group of guys coming out, there's 4 or 5 guys that are going to come, on a, $8,000 to $10,000 elk hunt, each one. Well, Papa Bear, the lead dude, right, is going to pay for the whole trip. So then he's going to put it all on his. Well, guess what? You need to make sure that you're written correctly so you can accept that card or that
Mm.
ACH transaction. And those funds are not held because no one wants your funds held. So like that's another key piece. And then in that scenario, um, Ari, Ari is an excellent example. Okay, at SOAR, he is very good at Tyler. About to do some big invoicing, or I just did a big one. He just shares it with me. I get in front of it. I share it with the risk team. Boom, nothing's held.
Okay.
Even though even though
That's
it's even though it's outside of those parameters that we set in place, as long as we're in front of it and we're not playing defense, it's beautiful. And then no funds are no funds are held because money makes money, right? So you got to get cash flow as efficient as possible, but it's what you're doing with those funds once you've received them, right? Because you've got outfitters out there that by what I mean, they are they're going to sacrifice everything for their guides, right? They're going to ensure that their guides are being paid. They're going to make sure that the stock's getting fed. You know what I mean?
yep.
And they'll if they have to eat ramens, every other day or once a week, they'll make sure they do that because that's the type of people that we are.
Yeah, but you guys can help them from eating ramen as
Oh,
much, right? Is that what?
dang right. Now, I mean,
Yeah.
if you'd like to make really good ramens, by all means, I'm not knocking them. Uh, but you get where I'm coming from.
Oh yeah.
The
Y-
key is just there's little pieces here and there, like little nuances that you're not going to get with your big payment aggregators, certain big payment aggregators of the world with open APIs. You don't get that type of customer service. You're going to call, you're going to talk to an AI like a chat bot. You're in it, you're in an issue. You don't get that level of support and like personal touch.
Yeah. I mean that really does count for something, even with something as I think online as payment solutions, right?
Yeah. Oh yeah. And
All
then
right, Tyler. Well, go ahead.
we can even go further with it, Jack, because um, there's several outfitters that are utilizing QuickBooks. Okay, so and then that's just another conversation to have as far as like, okay, who's doing the accounting, right? Who's doing your bookkeeping? Who's doing your payroll? Um, so like one of my favorite solutions is, of course, it's called the invoice path, right? It's a two-way sync with QBO because all I want to do is come in and I can cut the knees from Intuit because QuickBooks was never designed to process payments. It was designed as an accounting software,
Hmm.
and invoicing software, and so invoice path gives that beauty of, guess what? You've been using QuickBooks Online for how long? You're used to cranking invoices, taking payment. Guess what? You no longer have to pay those Intuit fees for processing card payments at that
Mm.
interest rate. It literally is a two-way sync. You know what I mean? So you can crank all you want through QuickBooks Online, right? And then Invoice Path is there for the presentation, the clean, compliant presentation to the customer, and then it reports back, of course, into QuickBooks for accounting. But yeah, there's a whole plethora. So like you guys also get access to our bookkeeping and payroll services. which is pretty sick. So digital marketing, payment processing, bookkeeping, and payroll.
Wow. No, full service.
It's a lot of fun.
I bet. I bet it keeps you busy. All right, Tyler. Well, I know your time's valuable, so I don't want to keep you too much longer. Is there anything else that I didn't ask you about that you want to touch on?
Yes. So with all that, all the positivity, right? It's always like, okay, well, have you ever had any like issues, right, or anything that, yeah. I mean, we're ultimately right. It is business. You know what I mean? It is business, even though I view it differently, like as a partnership, and I want to see every one of my partnerships like succeed. There are times, right, where things don't work out, right? It's not in the maybe it's not in the best interest of the outfitter, or even from my seat, it's not in the best interest for our company. You know what I mean? But just know that as passionate as I am, as much as I value your time, Jack, taking the time to do this podcast with me, I also value, you know, I even value those relationships and partnerships that were lost, because you learn a lot about who you are when there's failure. You know what I mean? What led to my
Totally.
success was my failure, 100%. Um, and so I do take in that individual. I hope he, maybe tuning in or listening to this, is a great great person, great individual. Um, and it does affect me that it didn't work out, but always want the best, right? Still want the absolute best for my past client, someone that I still consider a friend. Um,
Hmm.
and that's just it's the nature of the beast. So, but I do take that. I'm a person. I'm a human being, right? We make mistakes, we fail. Um, you know, we see flaws in the system, maybe in the workflow, from a company perspective of, hey, this was an operational failure. We need to improve upon it, and get better. You know what I mean? So, and I think if everyone just takes a good, honest look at things and is like, okay, you're doing what's best, you know, every second of the day, you know, sometimes a moment at a time, right, minute by minute. Um, just do the next right thing, and that's what really matters. So I've learned a lot. I've learned a lot these last 2 years of, navigating that part of it as well. So I thank you.
Yeah, I mean, uh, I think that's pretty insightful, right? Like our failures are often where we learn the most, and when you fail with a client, whether you're an outfitter or payment provider or um, somebody else, some other kind of business, like the lessons you learn from that really reverberate for the rest of your clients, ideally, right? If you're paying attention and you care, which I think most people do. Um,
Absolutely,
right on,
absolutely.
Tyler. Well, last question for you. This one's hopefully more of a fun one. What are your
Okay.
favorite places to go and recreate? That's kind of what we're all about here at the end of the day is getting outside and having that
Oh my
experience. So
gosh.
where do you like to go?
Like in the world, or just
Sure.
whatever, right?
Yeah, I
Well,
mean, if you want to tell us like
I
your
mean,
secret
uh,
hunting spot, that's fine.
okay, yeah, yeah. No, I mean, so I spend a lot of time on these beautiful little turf baseball fields. Okay, so I do love any and all, baseball complexes, um, that have turf. I even love the turf. Like, I love artificial
Pellets.
turf, right? The pellets that just get stuck in your shoes and socks. No, I love coaching baseball for my stepson, and then coordinating baseball. So it doesn't matter where it's located, anywhere, as long as it's a baseball field. Outside of baseball, any body of water, right? Any body of water. It can be a stream, it can be a creek, it can be an ocean. It doesn't matter. I love fishing. absolutely
Mm.
love fishing. I love spending that time with my boys and my little girl. Even though she did cost me a nice rod and reel because she made a sudden movement and I dropped it in the water, but she was safe. She was safe. She didn't fall out of the boat. Um, so I love fishing. I will say anywhere anywhere out west, um, you know, anywhere out west towards where you guys are at, it's just beautiful country. I mean, it really does make me feel at home and at peace when I'm there because I love the mountains. Um, it just, it, you know, it's quiet, it's peaceful. You can enjoy that coffee and see the steam roll off of it. But yeah, so clearly I love being in the woods, love being on the golf
Yep.
outside, outdoors. I do not like being inside. So that I will say that, Jack, that's been like the biggest challenge for me with this job is being more so indoors. But it's like, it's just part of it. Makes you
Yep.
kind of also
Yeah.
value your time spent
Makes you
outdoors. You know what I mean?
definitely.
And utilize
Yep.
it, you know, to your advantage. So, but yeah, just love the outdoors. So, and
All
I
right.
love I love the flyover state of Indiana for whitetail hunting. It's very underrated, but there's some dandy whitetails here.
Yeah, I bet they get well fed, huh?
Oh, yes, they do. A little too well fed. And then the farmer in me, it's like, oh my gosh. Anyway, yeah. I mean, we have farmers around here that they get enrolled in like the deprivation program because I mean
Hmm.
they cause a substantial loss, on yields and crop damage. Geese are really bad around here. I mean they'll go in as soon as that as soon as that piece of corn emerges, pluck they pluck it right out.
Just rip it right out. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, and that's just you know anyway. Um, but yeah, I love farming, love hunting, love fishing, and I love working with my outfitters.
Awesome. Will we be seeing you for the annual meeting this year,
Well, yes, of
Tamarack?
course. In
All right.
Tamarack, yes. Yeah, I mean, yeah, 3 years in a row. Boydie, Wallace,
Awesome.
Tamarack. You'll see me there.
Perfect, man. Well, yeah, folks, if you're coming down to the annual meeting, make sure you drop on by and talk to Tyler. Had some awesome koozies last year with the Woodsman Outfitter Solutions logo on. I still use my camo koozie, so definitely worth the chat. All right, Tyler, I'll let you get back to it, man, but thanks for coming on here and good talking with you.
Right on. I appreciate you, Jack. Thank you very much.
All right, and thanks to Tyler Green for taking the time to talk to us. And to all the folks out there in Idaho who are in the field working hard, whether you're an outfitter, a guide, trail worker, permit administrator, a river checker, firefighter, thanks for all you do. Thanks for helping us share our incredible state with people who otherwise would never have the chance to fall in love with it. Please reach out with questions, comments, suggestions for future episodes, philosophical rebuttals. If you like this episode, subscribe, tell your friends, play it in the rig truck. But most importantly, if you're not a member of IOGA, please consider joining. It really is the support of our members that allows us to continue our efforts advocating for this community, that helps us get in the door, and the support that helps us keep going every day. So I know it's angry August out there, but keep your head up, keep working hard, and we'll see you next time.
Angry August. I mean, as you guys are all angry out there, just remember that you're out there and Jack and I are going to be sitting in the Capitol. So, having meetings
Air
in like
conditioning.
nice clothing. So, yeah, be angry about sitting on the river. See you next week.